This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, hello there, it's Jeff Cardano welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe Birthday Boy! And the birthday boy for today, September the 10th, is one of the tallest players in sports history. Baseball, basketball, football, or hockey. He still has a big unit, played 22 years in Major League Baseball for 6 teams. He had his best years in the 90s and early 2000s. While he was 6'10", and at one time the tallest player in MLB history. Like, 6'10" is a basketball height. Not really a football or hockey height, but anyway. He was known for his intimidation. He had some great pitching. He won an World Series MVP in 2001. Helped Arizona win the World Series in their 4th year of existence. He has the 5th most wins by a lefty in Major League history, and tops in strikeouts among lefties. He even appeared in a Simpsons episode. Bet you didn't know that. But anyway, this guy was elected to the Hall of Fame in 2015, and he is an icon. He is Randy Johnson, who was born in Walnut Creek, California. He was a good pitcher. He went to USC to play baseball for the Trojans, and even played basketball. When he played for USC, he was actually a teammate of Mark McGwire. Didn't know that McGwire went to college? Well, now you do. Anyway, he had control problems, which plagued him. Atlanta actually selected him after high school in the 4th round of the draft, but he didn't want to sign. He wanted to go to USC. And then in the 2nd round of the 85 draft, the Expos decided with their 2nd pick of the draft to go with Randy. And it was like huge. Randy Johnson, 6'10". Montreal might have had a sideshow. So anyway, September 15th, 1988. Just 5 days after his 25th birthday, he debuted for the Expos against the Pirates with a 5-inning outing, 5 strikeouts, and a victory, 9-4. He was 3-0 in 4 games in 1988, and it was promising. Unfortunately, though, somehow, in some way, he went to 0-4 in 7 starts through May 7th. Montreal was gambling on how good their young core would be, and decided to trade Randy Johnson alongside Brian Holman and Gene Harris, if memory serves me right, to Montreal for Mark Langston and someone else. No, there had to be someone else. I forgot the trade for some stupid reason. But as is, he was traded to Seattle, and he actually was a bit wild. He did have 3 straight years in which he led the American League in walks as a pitcher and hits batsmen twice. So it's like, maybe the Expos made the right decision and all that. He was a little bit erratic. But let us not forget in 1990 that he did throw a no-hitter at home against the Tigers, and brought the Raiders their first no-hitter in history, beating the Blue Jays by 3 months. It was huge and all that. However, Nolan Ryan decided to give Randy Johnson a pitcher's session in 1992. He said he appreciated Johnson's talent and didn't want him to take as long to figure certain things out. Ryan recommended a change in his delivery. When he would pitch, Johnson would land on the heel of his foot after delivering a pitch, but it would be more offline from home plate. Ryan says he landed on the ball of his foot. Then he could use your foot to try to guide the ball, if you will. And it worked. Ironically, a few days later, Johnson would throw 18 strikeouts in 8 innings, throwing 160 pitches and all that. So it worked out. But in 92, in the offseason, when Randy Johnson went home for Christmas, his dad died of an aortic aneurysm. He wanted to quit baseball, but his mom said, "You've got to commit." And it worked. He went 19-8, with his 308 strikeouts being huge and all that, being the first Mariner to do so. There were rumors that Randy Johnson were going to be traded to Toronto for Steve Karsay and Mike Timlin. That would be huge. I mean, Karsay did nothing for the Jays. Timlin was the guy who got the save in Game 6 of the World Series. Actually, Pat Gillick said that he had two separate transitions on the table. The Randy Johnson move and the Ricky Henderson move. But when he couldn't get Woodward, Sandy Alderson of Oakland returned the call and all that. So, anyway, the Jays did okay. The Ricky Henderson trade worked out. I mean, we just gave up Steve Karsay. It worked out quite well. Anyway, Randy Johnson purposely threw the fastball over John Kruk's head during the All-Star game in '93 in Baltimore. Kruk would not want to face him and all that. And Randy Johnson even played the last game of the season in left field, making him the tallest player to play the field in baseball history. Randy Johnson was on fire. 95 was the year he really came into prominence. 18-2 with a 2.48 ERA and 294 strikeouts in the strike-shortened 95 season. Mind you, there was 144 games, not 162. In fact, his .900 winning percentage was the second highest in American League history, behind Johnny Allen of the Cleveland Indians, 15-1 in 1937. So anyway, he became the first Mariners pitcher to win the Cy Young and the only one until Felix Hernandez in 2010. Randy Johnson needed to pitch heroically in the one-game playoff against the Angels, which he did. He threw a three-hitter, and the Angels blew that 95 division. The only problem was that Randy Johnson would be unavailable for the first two games of the ALDS because he started the game. That big one-game thing. And saw the Yankees take a 2-0 series lead on home turf. Fortunately for Seattle, they had 3 games at home. I mean, they were the division winners, and the Yankees were the wild card. So Seattle finished it up, and then Game 3, he took down the Yankees with 10 strikeouts in 7 innings. The Mariners made that great comeback in Game 4. Edgar Martinez, the grand slam against Wetland. And then, Randy Johnson decided to make a relief appearance in Game 5 on one day's rest. He pitched the 9th, 10th, and 11th inning. Struck out 6. Unfortunately, though, he gave up a run. But fortunately for him, the double by Edgar Martinez saved the day, and Seattle won the game and saved baseball in Seattle, mind you. Unfortunately, injuries would hurt him in '96 with a back injury. Well, when you're 6'10", you're bound to have back problems. But he rebounded in 1997 with a 20-4 record and 291 strikeouts. He had 2 times he struck out 19. And again, in the All-Star game, he played chicken with Larry Walker. And it was, unbelievable. Now, Larry Walker was a teammate of Randy Johnson's with the Expos, mind you. So, yeah. Walker placed his batting helmet backwards and drew a walk. There were, of course, a lot of things going on. So, anyway, Seattle said that they would not give him a contract extension, even though his contract was expiring after the season, and Johnson wanted to stay in Seattle. Unfortunately, a terrible June for Seattle would mean they would shop Randy Johnson along, and they did. They traded him to Houston for 3 minor leaguers: Freddie Garcia, Carlos Guillen, and John Halama. But before you say, oh, that was a shitty trade, they did help out with the '01 Mariners when they won 116 games. They were serviceable, all 3 of them. With Houston, he was 10-1 in 11 regular season starts, 1.28 ERA, and took 7th in Cy Young voting, despite the fact he only played 2 months in the league. Houston won the NL Central, but unfortunately the Padres took care of the Astros in the playoffs. Johnson started games 1-4, both losses. But the funny thing is, he only gave up 3 runs in 2 games. The only problem was that Houston couldn't score to help Johnson out, with only 1 run scored while Randy was pitching. Talk about your run support issues. So Arizona, headed into their 2nd year as a franchise, decided to splash out and give Randy a 4-year, $52 million contract, roughly $13 million a season. And he rewarded them with 17 wins and a 2.48 ERA and 364 strikeouts, coming very close to Nolan Ryan's record. But anyway, Randy Johnson was the Cy Young winner, hands down, and became the third pitcher after Gaylord Perry and Pedro Martinez to win the Cy Young in both the American and National League. Funny thing was, Pedro won the AL Cy Young in '99, and of course added to its '97 Cy Young with the Expos. Randy Johnson and the Diamondbacks were shocked by the Mets in the first round of the playoffs in 4 games. Todd Pratt, anyone? So anyway, Johnson did well, and then the Diamondbacks picked up Curt Schilling from the Phillies in 2000, and it was the two aces. It was Schilling and Johnson praying for something else. By the way, the pitching work of Johnson and Schilling carried Arizona into the playoffs in 2001. In fact, Randy Johnson threw a 20 strikeout game for the Diamondbacks against the Reds in 9 innings. The only problem was run support screwed him up. It was 1-1. The Diamondbacks did win in the 11th, but still. So anyway, Randy Johnson knew what he had to do. So anyway, Johnson pitched a 3-hit shutout in Game 2, striking 11. Although people criticized Bob Bradley for not removing Johnson after the 7th or maybe the 8th because, maybe save him for the rest of the series. He pitched in Game 6, got 7 innings in a 15-1 blowout. So, he did. And then dramatically in Game 7, he came out of the bullpen. He pitched a scoreless 9th, and the Diamondbacks, with some trickery and some great speed by Tony Womack, and Luis Gonzalez's bloop single, won the World Series. So anyway, Arizona did it. They won the World Series. Randy won 5 games in the postseason, and is the last pitcher to win 3 games in a single World Series, winning his 2 starts and then the relief appearance. So Johnson and Schilling were both named World Series MVPs. I forgot to mention that in 2001, in a spring training game against the Giants, Randy Johnson threw a fastball to Calvin Murray, but it killed a dove. It was ruled a no pitch, and it was an accident. So anyway, Randy did what he could. He won the pitching Triple Crown in 2002, meaning he led the National League in wins, ERA, and strikeouts, and was given his 4th straight Cy Young. He knew what to do. Unfortunately, though, he spent the majority of 2003 on the DL, which ruined his chance to go 5 straight Cy Youngs and break that mark. But in May 2004, Randy Johnson, in a nationally televised game, on TBS, because I had TBS, faced the Braves. And at 40 years old, he was the oldest pitcher to throw a perfecto as he took care of the Braves 2-0. Tom Brenneman was great on the call. Of course, no, let's not talk about Brenneman's problems, but still. Anyhow, it made him the 5th pitcher in Major League history after Cy Young, Jim Bunning, Nolan Ryan, and a guy I did a few days ago, Hideo Nomo, to pitch a no-hitter in both leagues. He became the 5th pitcher in Major League history to throw a no-hitter and a perfect game after Cy Young, Jim Bunning, Addie Johnson, and Sandy Koufax. Although Mark Burley and Roy Doc Halladay would join him in that group. So after striking out Jeff Cirillo in June of 2004, he got 4,000 strikeouts, becoming the 4th pitcher to do so. He was 16-14, but his ERA was low at 2.6. The reason why he lost so many games? Because of the whole stupid run support. When Arizona scored at least 3 runs, Johnson was 13-2. Otherwise, he was 3-12. Yikes. Well, anyway, Arizona, needing money, decided to trade Randy to New York for Javi Vasquez, Brad Halsey, Daniel Navarro, and cash in 2005. None of those guys, maybe Halsey, helped the Diamondbacks. Randy would pitch opening day for the Yankees in 2005. Of course, he had an ignominious start in New York as he shoved a cameraman. No, sorry, he put his hand on front of a camera in New York. Welcome to New York. Unfortunately, he was inconsistent. But the good news for him was that he was 5-0 against the Red Sox and 17-8 overall. So unfortunately, in Game 3 of the LDS against the Angels, he gave up 5 runs in 3 innings. Randy Johnson came in relief in Game 5 in the tie-breaking game. Unfortunately, though, they lost. It wasn't his fault. Mike Mussina sucked at the start. Randy lost 4. He was 17-11, and then he had a herniated disc in his back, which he didn't get checked out till the second last start, which is like awful and all that. But after giving up 5 runs in 5 2/3 innings, his Yankee career was basically done. But the good news was Arizona got him back. The Yankees traded him to New York to get Luis Vizcaino, Alberto Gonzalez, Steven Jackson, and Russ Orlendorf. None of them were Yankee stars. But Randy Johnson wanted to be close to his family because of his brother's death. So anyway, he rehabbed his injured back and all of that. He returned to form in a sense. He would have his disc removed completely, and the procedure worked. Randy Johnson, in his second tour with the Diamondbacks, got to number 2 on the strikeout list, behind Nolan Ryan. And then after the season, Arizona let him go, and San Francisco took him for a 1-year deal. And all that for the 2009 season. But a rotator cuff ruined him and all that. At 46 years old, he was still pitching, and then he would retire. Smart move. Randy Johnson was inducted into the Mariners Hall of Fame in 2012, and throughout the ceremony of first pitch in the first game of the Mariners in 2010. 2015, the Diamondbacks retired his number 51 because Randy Johnson was going to the Hall of Fame. So why not? In fact, at the retirement ceremony, Johnson was presented with a replica of the drum set used by Neil Peart, part of Canada's probably 5th favorite band, Rush. But anyway, yeah, he was good. After baseball, he decided to have a second career in photography. He actually did games for. He actually has done NFL games and Rush. So anyway, his fastball was huge and all that. So a lot of accomplishments. Pitched Seattle's first ever no-hitter. Pitched a perfect game at 40 years old. I'm almost 40. Makes me feel a little awkward. What? Randy went to 10 All-Star games, 9-time strikeout leader, 4-time ERA leader. Won 3 games in the 2001 World Series. 5-time Cy Young winner, 95, and then that 4-year run between 99 and 2002. World Series co-MVP. 300 wins in a single career. Pretty good. 20 strikeouts by a left-hander. The most strikeouts by a left-handed pitcher in one game, 20. Even though that he didn't pitch the 10th. All that. So yeah. Randy has 4 children. Tanner, Sammy, Willow, and Alexandria. The big unit was huge. Why is he called Big Unit? Well, Tim Raines coined it. And at 6'10", he was the tallest player. However, John Rauch, a relief pitcher, was 6'11". In fact, Randy Johnson was on The Simpsons, as I said at the start. Bart has 2 mummies. Basically, it's when Marge is given a female computer in exchange for babysitting Rod and Todd and teaching Rod and Todd to be independent, which Ned somehow hates. And then That episode also had Bart being kidnapped by someone at a chimp at a wildlife sanctuary, and doing a King Kong style homage and all that. But yeah, Randy Johnson was in that movie that episode because there was a left-handers convention, and his booth's right beside Ned's. The left-handed teddy bears. Very impressive, don't you think? So yeah, Randy Johnson was an icon for all time. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do